Hello guys, today I will featuring the 5 historical landmark in the Philippines. But before that, why it is so important to study history? It's important to study history because we can gain a better understanding of the world we live by studying it. Knowledge and understanding of historical events and trends, particularly over the last century, allow us to develop a much greater appreciations for current events. So let's begin. First is the General Aniceto Lacson Historical Landmark. The House of Aniceto Lacson in Talisay City, Negros Occidental is declared as a national historical landmark by the NHCP or the National Historical Commissions of the Philippines. It declared a national historical landmark on March 13, 2002. It built as a part of the Manor Matabang by Aniceto E. Lacson, General of the Revolutionary Army of the Republica Cantonal de Negros government, of which Lacson became president in 1898. Also a headquarters of the Japanese forces in 1942 to 1945, and the U.S. Army 48 Divisions, the American Liberation Army in 1945. So, who is Aniceto Lacson? Aniceto Lacson E. Ledesma was born on April 17, 1857, and was died on February 3, 1931. He was a Philippine sugar baron in Revolutionary General. He is notable for leading the Negros revolutions along with Juan Araneta and for being the president of the short-lived Republic of Negros. Next is General Juan Araneta Historical Landmark. This shrine is built in honor of the late General Juan Araneta, who fought for the Negros Occidental independence on November 5, 1898. It is called as the Negros Revolutions that happened during the Spanish colonial rule of the island. So what are the contributions of General Juan Araneta in Bago City? From 18,000 to 1898, the town experienced tyranny and oppressions from the Spanish. The people then revolted against them. General Juan Araneta led the rally for the struggle of freedom on November 5, 1898. This historic event was chronicled in the public plaza of Bago City. Among the prominent men in the history of Negros Island in the Philippines, General Juan Araneta is one of the most celebrated historical figures. Next is Malacanang Palace Historical Landmark. Malacanang Palace, officially known as Malacanang Palace, is the official residence and principal workplace of the Presidents of the Philippines. It is located in the Manila district of San Miguel, and it is commonly associated with Benjola Street. The term Malacanang is often used as a metonym for the President and his advisors. The sprawling Malacanang Palace complex includes numerous mansions and office buildings designs and built largely in bahay na bato and neoclassical style. The palace has been seized several times as a result of protests starting with the People Power Revolutions of 1986, the 1989 coup attempt, the 2001 Manila riots, and the EDSA third riots. So, why is Malacanang Palace considered historical and famous? Over the years, Malacanang Palace was home to 18 Spanish governors, general, and 14 American civil governor. When the Philippine Commonwealth was established in 1935, Malacanang served as the official residence of the Presidents of the Philippines. So, next is, what is the importance of Malacanang Palace? The complex became residence of the presidents of the Philippines upon the establishments of the Commonwealth of the Philippines on November 15, 1935. President Manuel L. Quezon became the first Filipino president of the palace. It has been the Philippine president's official residence ever since. Next is Miguel Malvar Historical Landmark. The Malvar Historical Landmark honors General Miguel Malvar, 1865 to 1911, the last Philippine general who surrendered to the American at the close of the Filipino-American War. Inside the museum are newspaper clippings, diorama, and all paintings of Malvar battles. It is located at Santo Tomas, Batangas. So what did General Miguel do? General Miguel Malvar is more than just a name to the Philippines. He is the man who led the war against the Americans and took the first positions in the revolutions of the Philippines. The last is Luneta Hotel Historical Landmark. The Luneta Hotel is a historic hotel in Manila, Philippines. The name after is its locations across from Luneta or Rizal Park on Calao Avenue in Ermita. It is one of the remaining structures that survived the liberations of Manila in 1945. The hotel was completed in 1919 according to the study by Dean Joseph Fernandez of the University of Santo Tomas. The hotel was designed by Spanish architect engineer Salvador Pari. The structure is the only remaining example of French Renaissance architecture with Filipino styles. After being closed down and abandoned in 1987, the hotel was relaunched in May 2014 with installations of historical marker by the National Historical Commissions of the Philippines. That's all, guys. I hope you learn from historical landmark in the Philippines.
Hello guys, I am Nerissa Lina, and today we're gonna tour on this different historical landmark in the Philippines. So the first one is the Dumangas Church Historical Landmark. So the ruin of this first stone church in the Dumangas and in the whole of Panay Island is found in the barangay Ermita in Dumangas, Iloilo. It is enshrined under a concrete cement shelter to preserve and protect it against natural elements. Ermita is also the original location of the publication before it was transferred to its present location. So, Ermita Chapel Historical Landmarks. Father Martin de Rada, OSA, may have built the first church and convent of Dumangas, Iloilo in 1572. However, Father Juan de Alva constructed the first stone church in Panay Island in a small place called Ermita, which means chapel. It was built in the hilly part of the present-day Dumangas. The next one is the Filipino Chapel Friendship Historical Landmark. So during the Second World War, the Japanese Imperial Forces made a stronghold out in the natural caves found in the Bukhaw Hill at the foot of the Mount Isarog and was sited in the Japanese last stand in the Bicol region in 1845. Next is the Puerta de la Concepcion Idel 20 Historical Landmark. So, it is also known as the Fort of the Misamis, Saital, first built by the Spanish Jesuit priest and commander. So, Jose Ducos, for the town of Misamis in Mindanao Island, is now in the modern city of Ozamis, Philippines. Construction of the structure completed in 1756. It is made out of coral stone and has 4 bastion, baluarte, namely San Fernando, San Jose, Santiago, and San Ignacio. General Juan Araneta Historical Landmarks. So it depicts the monumentous event when the legendary hero was leading his troops, armed only with the nipa stalks, and rode Isawali mats painted black, in an attack leading to the historic bluff and liberates that liberates Negros from Spanish conquistadores in 1890.
Gala Rodriguez House. The 2-story Gala Rodriguez House was designated as one of the 3 heritage houses in the Sariaya by the National Historical Institute of the Philippines on May 14, 2008 due to its significant historical and cultural significance. Dr. Juan Luna Shrine designed it in the early 1930s, and it was owned by one of Quezon's most distinguished couples, Dr. Isidro Rodriguez and Doña Gregoria Gala. The house, along with other opulent houses owned by the Ilustrados of Old Sariaya, is located on Rizal Street. It is listed as one of the ancestral houses in the Philippines under Region 4A. The Gala Rodriguez Mansion was built in the 1930s as a gift for Dr. Isidro Rodriguez's ailing wife, Doña Gregoria. During World War II, Japanese imperial officers used the house as a headquarters. 3 Japanese occupied the second floor while the family was permitted to remain on the ground floor. General Ashima, one of the Japanese officers, fell in love with Carmen, the oldest daughter of Dr. Rodriguez and Doña Gregoria Gala. When the guerrillas discovered that Japanese officers were occupying the house, they purposely informed the Americans who were about to liberate Manila at the time. The guerrillas sent a map to the American forces, instructing them to bomb the entire house. Residents of Sariaya have already fled to the barrios in search of safety. They did not inform the house's owners because they are afraid that General Ashima will follow Carmen. Fortunately, a family friend went back to inform them of the planned bombing, and the entire family evacuated the same day. Life moved on, and Doña Carmen assumed control of the household. She married Judge Vicente Arguelles in the 1950s, and they had one child, Gladiola, also known as Ineng. Gladiola Arguelles Gabuag. The original owner's granddaughter is now the owner and caretaker of the historic home. Generosa Reyes Gamboa Heritage House. It is located in Silay City, Philippines, which is known as the Paris of the Negros Occidental. This site, which was formerly one of the traditional heritage houses, is now popular among tourists as a bed and breakfast. 1898 Casa and Restaurante. Sculptures depicting the Negros Revolution against the Spaniards can be found right outside their doors. It's an excellent location for photographs. The Philippine National Historical Commission marker is one of them. The marker is only awarded to houses that are more than 50 years old and have witnessed significant historical event. The Generoso Reyes Gamboa Heritage House, built in 1898, is also regarded as the Philippine first twin house. Jose Corteza Locsin Heritage House. Jose Corteza Locsin Ancestral House is a two-story heritage house in Silay City, Negros Occidental, Philippines. Owned by the family of Jose Corteza Locsin, a Filipino doctor and politician. It is one of the recognized and declared Heritage House of the Philippines by the National Historical Commission of the Philippines due to its cultural, architectural, and historical significance. It is one of the Silay best preserved houses. During the 1930s, it was built in Art Deco style. Aside from the original furniture, Amorsolo portraits are among the items you should see. Lopez Heritage House. The Lopez Heritage House, also known as the Mansion de Lopez or Nelly's Garden. It is a national heritage house built in 1928 in Joro, Iloilo by Ilonggo statesman Don Vicente Lopez and his wife Doña Elena Ofelia. The mansion was named after the couple's eldest daughter, Nellis Lopez y Ofelia. It is known as the Queen of Heritage Houses in Iloilo due to its grandiose architecture highlighting the province's aristocratic past. The National Historical Institute designated it as a National Historical Landmark on March 28, 2004. The house and its 4 hectares of land are available for public tours and events. Vicente Lopez and his wife used to live near the Joro Cathedral, but the constant sound of cannons fired during religious activities led the family's decision to relocate to a more peaceful location. By 1928, the mansion had been completed, and the couple had decided to name it after their eldest daughter. During World War II in the Philippines, Filipino guerrillas led by an Ilonggo general nearly burned down the mansion to prevent it from being used as a headquarters for invading Japanese soldiers. The house's then occupants, Nina Lopez Iszon, the third child of Don Vicente and Doña Elena, and her husband begged the guerrillas to spare it. A squad of Japanese soldiers arrived just as kerosene was being poured around the area, and a heavy gunfight ensued. By the end of the war, the house was still standing. The house was used for receptions and meeting with Philippine governor and generals. Because of its cultural and architectural significance, the National Historical Institute designated it as historical landmark. Makapagal-Makaraig Heritage House. The National Historical Institute designated the Makapagal-Makaraig Ancestral House as a heritage site on August 14, 2002. It is regarded as the first house in the Philippines, as it was home to the 2 of the country's presidents, Diosdado Macapagal, the 9th President of the Philippines, and his daughter Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, the 14th President of the Philippines. The house, which was built in 1950, is made of wood and concrete cement. Since former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo donated the house, the city government of Iligan has made every effort to keep it in good condition. Many cabinet meetings were held here during Arroyo's presidency. As a rest stop for friends and families of the Makaraig, Macapagal, and Arroyo families, it has also hosted seminars and birthday parties on occasion. The house also represents the modernity of government in the 1950s. It is an appropriate resting place for those whose lived in had impact on community like Iligan City. Many local, mostly students from neighboring provinces, are eager to visit this location for school projects or research purposes. For school field trips, it is usually included in the itinerary.
Good day, tourists! I am Chriszie Roxas and I am one of your tour guide for today. And I will tour you with some heritage house here in our country, which is the Philippines. The Iszon House is a heritage house in the city of San Fernando, Pampanga, Philippines. This house was made of stone of the Spanish colonial period, was declared a heritage house by the National Historical Institute on January 27, 2003 by the virtue of Resolution number 3 2003. Jose Pitong Ledesma Ancestral House. Silay City dubbed as the Paris of Negros because of its European architecture inspired houses, which had been declared historical landmark. Why? Because this is the second museum city in the Philippines next to Bigan. Silay is often referred to as the Paris of Negros due to its artists, cultural shows, and large collection of perfectly preserved heritage houses. More than 30 of these well-preserved ancestral homes have been declared historical landmarks and are the main attractions in Silay. The Lazatin House. The Lazatin House is one of the two heritage houses owned by the Lazatin family in the city of San Fernando, Pampanga province in the Philippines. Lazatin House is in Consunji Street, Barangay Santo Rosario, and this was built in 1925 by the couple Seferin Lazatin y Ocampo, sugar farmer and former president of Espelacco and Encarnacion Siningaan y Torres. It was appropriated by the Japanese Imperial Army during the Second World War to serve as the residence of the 14th Army Corps commander of the Japanese Imperial Army, General Masaharu Homa, in San Fernando, Pampanga. This ancestral house, which exemplifies the architecture prevalent during the American colonial period, was declared a heritage house by the National Historical Institute on January 27, 2003 by the virtue of Resolution number 6 2003. Manuel Severino Hofilenya Heritage. The Hofilenya Heritage House is the first ancestral house in Silay City, Negros Occidental. Built in 1934 by Manuel Severino Hofilenya and his wife Gilda Ledesma Cohilia, a former Miss Silay. It is an excellent example of a house style characteristic of its time and area. Its grand staircase came from Gilda's ancestral house, built nearby at the time when automobiles did not yet exist. Its wood is so hard that even termites cannot eat it, and nails cannot penetrate it that pegs had to be used. The wood is ironwood or balyong. In World War II, the house was occupied by the Japanese soldiers, then the Americans. Maria Ledesma Goles Heritage House. This was purchased by the Silay branch of Republic Commercial Banking Corporation in 1992. The house was restored and was ready for occupancy by 1993. The house is an excellent example of architectural reuse. The lower floor of the house, which was rented out to shops, has been renovated to house a bank. The bank's interior, true new, is done in a style consonant to the general design of the house. The heritage features. The residence is planned as a townhouse which combines living space on the upper floor and with commercial spaces on the lower floor. Art Deco elements, especially in the archways and the corner entrance, and classical motifs like masks and caryatid and lion heads decorated the house.
Good day everyone, my name is Michael Macaisa and I will be your tour guide in 5 different shrines. So let's go! House of History. The Aguinaldo Mansion is the locus of a focal point in the Philippine history. Constructed in 1845, the original structure of the house was of nipa and thatch material. It was reconstructed 4 years later using a variety of Philippine hardwood. By the 1920s, major renovation saw the construction of the tower and the symbolic balcony of the house. It was also during this period that the house was refurbished and the architectural details of nationalistic themes, Masonic symbols, and Art Nouveau and Art Deco's artistic style prevalent during the early 20th century. The house where the president lived was donated to the Filipino people in 1963, a year before he passed away. In 1964, the house was placed under the care of National Museum of the Philippines and was declared a National Shrine through Republic Act No. 4039. By 1972, Executive Order No. 370 transferred the shrine under the care and maintenance of the National Historical Commission. Today, the house continues to emanate the vision of a free and proud nation as it perpetuates the ideals of the 1896 Revolution and the 1898 Proclamation of the Philippine Independence. The Museo ni Emilio Aguinaldo's collection covers a variety of museum objects. The ground level of the house is a permanent exhibit on the role of Cavite during the Revolution. It presents the life of the general, Cavite during the Spanish colonial period, and the revolution against Spain until the Proclamation of Independence on June 12, 1898. It also covers the aftermath of the revolution until the Philippine War against the United States. The second level is the living space of the house, similar to the traditional bahay na bato structure of the 19th century. The living room, the bedrooms, dining area, and the kitchen can all be found in this level. These rooms house 19th century and early 20th century furniture and details of the Art Nouveau and Art Deco period of the past. The Gallery 1 contains Aguinaldo's early years up to the Katipunan. Gallery 2 is the Revolution and the Declaration of Independence. The next gallery is the Road to the First Republic. And the last gallery is Filipino versus American War. Fort Santiago, as many already know, is a popular tourist attraction in the Philippines. But what it is now, a beautiful and a remarkable tourist spot, owes it to the horrifying stories that took place centuries ago. And these stories are not like any other, as this will definitely give you goosebumps. It is like you're staring in a horror or thriller film. Fort Santiago was a fortress built in the late 1500s by the Spanish government during the colonization of Manila. As part of Intramuros, it served as a storage of ammunition and converted into a prison cell for activists and the political resistance. One of the most famous imprisoned here was Philippines national hero Dr. Jose Rizal before his public execution. Fort Santiago Intramuros was already used during the World War II for formidable purposes. The Japanese kept the soldiers and political prisoners in the dungeon to torture and execute. That's why this place remains one of the most notable and important historical sites in the Philippines. The next house is the General Leandro Fulon House. On March 13, 1877, General Leandro Fulon, a revolutionary leader and the liberator of the Philippine Antique Revolution, was born in Hamtic, Antique. General Fulon continued to struggle for freedom and independence during the Filipino-American War. He surrendered to the Americans in 1901 after his forces were weakened due to heavy casualties. After the civil government was organized, he was appointed provincial governor of Antique, a post that he held until his death on October 16, 1904. A shrine in honor of General Fulon with this life-size statue was erected by the Philippine National Historical Institute at the public plaza of Hamtic, Antique, which is now a revered historical landmark. The next house is the Aglipay Shrine. The Aglipay Shrine is nestled at Pinili and Batang, Ilocos Norte. The shrine was built in memory of Gregorio Alipay, who stood squarely behind the oppressed people of God when he founded his Protestant sect known as the Filipino Independent Church. Gregorio Alipay is a historical figure who called Batac City his home. He is a soldier, religious reformer, and patriot of the Philippines. He was known for the foundation of the Iglesia Filipina Independiente or the Philippine Independent Church, and for being the first military chaplain of the Philippine Revolution 1896. Gregorio Aglipay was an activist, Roman Catholic priest from Ilocos Norte, who was communicated by the Vatican for inciting rebellion within the Filipino clergy. Despite his defense of some Spanish Catholic clergy from liberal nationalist Filipino revolutionaries, during the brief interlude between independence from the Spanish and occupation by the United States, Isabelo de los Reyes, also known as Don Belong, and Aglipay acted to perform the Filipino Catholic clergy. Aglipay died at the age of 80 on September 1, 1940. He was given an elaborate funeral attended by officials of the Commonwealth of the Philippines. His remains lie in state at a large mausoleum called the Aglipay Shrine in downtown Batac City. So the last house is the Mabini Shrine. Tucked in Barangay Talaga, Tanawan, Batangas, the shrine marks the birthplace of Apolinario Mabini. At the heart of a residential area along the Tanawan-Talisay Highway, it harbors a library, a museum, and this town. It was inaugurated on July 23, 1956 by the Vice President Carlos P. Garcia and Mrs. Luz Banzon Magsaysay. A bust of Mabini rises between two imposing pylons, standing like inanimate sentinels at the entrance to the shrine. Two rooms flank the stairs behind the pylons, the library to the left, and the museum to the right. Inside the museum are precious historical jewels that were all part of Mabini's life. His cabinet back when he was still studying, tapayan or water jar, eyeglasses, cane, wheelchair, and other memorabilia are kept and displayed behind glass walls. Several paintings and photos of Mabinis also decorate the walls of the museum. Inside the other room, the library, were books and other documents by about him. In between the two rooms is the tomb where Mabini's body lies in peace. His signature is embossed on one side of the grave. Just behind it shines another just made of solid white marble and carved by G.T. Nepomuceno.
Good day everyone, I'm Aliceia Regala and I will be your tour guide for today. We have 5 landmarks to be discussed. First, Jose P. Laurel Monument. Second, Jose Rizal Monument. Third, Jose Rizal National Monument. Fourth, Juan Luna Shrine. And last, Kalantiaw Shrine. The first landmark is Jose P. Laurel Monument. It is a modest rotunda located immediately outside the Gateway Hotel in the Siargao. It is one of the region's less well-maintained historical sites. A tiny statue was erected in commemorations of Laurel's achievements in the Philippines and throughout the Caraga region. The Jose P. Laurel Monument is a tiny building built to honor Laurel's affections for children. Indeed, one of his remarks to young Filipinos is written in a plaque beneath the statue. I would rather to see the youth of the land step in moral education and self-discipline rather than be just selfish possessors of the accumulated wisdom of the land. The second one is the Rizal Monument. Almost every city, town, or even barrio in the Philippines has a monument or statue or a bust of Jose Rizal. Below is the list of the most famous Jose Rizal monuments throughout the Philippines. Rizal Monument in the Philippines are located in almost every state, capital, and the city. There are Luneta in Manila, Rizal Park in Daet, Camarines Norte, Tacloban, Leyte, Villasis Pangasinan, Santa Cruz in Laguna, Dapitan City, Calamba, and many other states. First Rizal Monument was built in 1898 in Daet, Camarines Norte. This was only about 2 years after the death of the national hero Jose Rizal, which was completed in 1899. The 20-foot high stone building is also a special monument to the Bicolano. There is no complicated design. Lieutenant Colonel Antonio Sanz, Mason, designed a monument that includes a 3-tiered stone pylon, a square base, and a 2-level triangular body that toppered. The third landmark is Jose Rizal National Monument. The Rizal Monument is a monument in the Rizal Park in Manila, Philippines, to commemorate the executed Filipino nationalist Jose Rizal. The monument consists of a bronze sculpture and an obelisk standing in Rizal. His body is placed on the stone foundation, and 2 of his famous novels, El Filibusterismo and Noli Me Tangere, are placed inside. A plaque on the front of the pedestrian reads, "In memory of the patriot and martyr Jose Rizal, executed at the Bagong Bayan battlefield on December 30, 1896. This monument was dedicated by the people of the Philippine Islands. The surrounding area of the monument is continuously guarded by the maritime security and escort team of the Philippine Marine Corps, and the changing of the guard has become a daily ceremony. About 100 northwest of the monument is the exact location where Rizal was executed. A life-size 3-dimensional model depicts his last monument or moments. This landmark is Luneta's most well-known monument. The Rizal Monument served a meaningful country. For the fourth landmark is Juan Luna Shrine. Juan Luna Shrine is a reconstruction of 2-story house where the painter, a patriot, and a leading Filipino was born on October 24, 1857. The original house is said to have burned down in 1861. The place that is the basis for the reconstructions of the shrine. His old house has become a paradise for all the old things he and his family own. Paintings, clothes, objects, and much more. All of this provide tourists with a deeper understanding of what life and why of life in his time will look alike. Visitors are often not only strong in nationalisms but also come out of the place feeling new. They believe that the more they know about history, the stronger their feelings toward their country. Juan Luna Shrine is a double-decker house built using sturdy bricks and wood. A random collection is on display on the first floor, while on the second floor the locations is divided into different compartments: living rooms, bathrooms, chapels, and terraces. Of course, there are also materials related to Juan Luna's brother, Antonio Luna. The sword, uniform, and the letter he wrote are on display. And lastly, the Kalantiaw Shrine. In the pre-Spanish days of Panay Island, there was a Datu who ruled Aklan, one of the 3 kingdoms in the island. His name was Dato Bendahara Kalantiaw, a descendant of the 10 Datu of Borneo. In 1433, he issued what was known as the Kalantiaw Code, a set of 18 laws that govern his kingdom and his subject. On June 1, 1956, acting upon the request of the Municipal Council of Batan, the Philippine Historical Committee installed a marker in a tract of land near the bay. On February 11, 1957, President Ramon Magsaysay approved Executive Order No. 234 declaring the site as a national shrine. Then, January 24, 1973, President Ferdinand E. Marcos signed a Presidential Decree No. 105 declaring national shrine such as a sacred places and prohibiting desecrations.
Molo Church is a famous Spanish colonial church and heritage site in Molo District. It's known for the prominent red spires that crown its tall bell towers and as a feminist church because of the all-women ensemble of saints represented in 16 statues perched on the aisle pillars. Built in neo-Gothic style, the church is one of the Iloilo city's most familiar landmarks and top tourist attractions. This magnificent structure can be best photographed during the late afternoon hours when the coral stone facade of the church reflect the soft golden rays of the sunset. While you are there, take a stroll in around the Molo Plaza. Also within an easy walk are a couple of remarkable heritage houses and the Iloilo Esplanade. It can be found beside Molo Plaza, the central landmark in Molo District. One of the most significant places of worship in Iloilo is the Molo Church, a national landmark featuring the Gothic architecture. Withstanding the passage of time, it has been an irreplaceable historical and religious legacy lovingly preserved and cherished by the people of the region. The church was declared as a national landmark by the National Historical Institute in 1992 through the representation of Sir Knight Rex Sevilla. It is the only Gothic church outside the Manila. The Ermita Church, or formerly known as the Archdiocesan Shrine of Our Lady of Guidance, is a Roman Catholic church located in the district of Ermita in the city of Manila. The church is home to the Marian image of Our Lady of Guidance, which is considered to be the oldest Marian image in the Philippines, and whose honor the church is officially named after and dedicated to. The church began as a rustic shrine made of bamboo, nipa, and mulabi wood that was built to house the image of Our Lady of Guidance in the area where it was found in 1571 by Spanish soldier under Miguel Lopez de Legazpi. The shrine eventually became a chapel built in 1606. On the house of the image, it was called as La Ermita or the Chapel. The word also gives the name to the present Manila area of Ermita where the chapel is located. Built in 1786, Miagao Church, or also known as Santo Tomas de Villanueva Parish Church, is one of the most visited tourist attraction in Miagao, Iloilo. More than a place of worship, it also served as a fortress. Hence, it is called the Baroque Fortress Church. It was designed with the Baroque features with touches of Chinese and Filipino styles, imposing designs, ornaments, and motifs, making it one-of-a-kind church. That is why the Miagao Church architecture is among the Philippines' most beautiful architectural gems. Its old structure, history, and its UNESCO World Heritage mark make it a treasure not only for Iloilo but for the Philippines. Throughout the years, it has gone to many wars and revolutions, fires and earthquakes, and survived. Miagao Church also stands as a living legacy of the culture and the way of life of the people of Miagao centuries ago. UNESCO has chosen Miagao Church as one of the World Heritage Sites because it exhibits various architectural designs with a predominance of Baroque architecture and local artistic elements. The church foundation runs 20 feet deep into the ground, and in 1.5 meter thick walls are reinforced with 4-meter thick buttresses. As the town of Miagao was constantly invaded by the Moros for almost a decade in the mid-18th century, the church had to move to a more secure place, so a new fortified church was then built as the highest point of the town to guard against potential invaders. But what makes this church even more special is its unique ochre color. The church was built using a combination of Spanish Baroque and Romanesque early medieval architectural style, with the addition of Chinese, Muslim, and local Filipino elements in the decoration of its facade. San Agustin Church is popularly known as Dumangas. It was declared as a national landmark by the National Historical Institute. The Gothic style of the church was made of red bricks and coral stones. It was constructed in 1887 and finished in 1895. The predominant design is Gothic with a flame-like arch of the main entrance and windows. It was architecturally considered as the most artistic in the Philippines in the 19th century. It was Father Juan Aguado in 1759 who proclaimed St. Augustine as the patron saint of Dumanas. He defended the town in a very famous legend. The Holy Rosary Minor Seminary, or the Seminario Conciliar de Nueva Cáceres, and officially known as the Seminario del Santísimo Rosario de Cáceres Incorporated, is the oldest ecclesiastical and the civil higher educational institution in the southern Luzon. Founded on March 7, 1793 by Archbishop Antonio Gallego of Manila, the Holy Rosary Minor Seminary started as the Casa de Cleriegos, House of Clerics, in the place called Padilla, or now the Cáceres Street near in Bicol River. It was declared as a National Historical Landmark on June 11, 1978 by the National Historical Institute as a tribute to its having produced martyrs, patriots, and heroes like Jose Maria Panganiban, Tomas Arejola, and 9 of the 15 Bicol martyrs. Among its prominent alumni are Bishop George Warlin, the first Filipino bishop, Jose Tomas Cardinal Sanchez, and the 21 other bishops in the country.
Good day everyone, I am Audrey Brenth Ramilo and I will be your tour guide to the historical landmarks of churches. Ccto Shrine was built to protect them and the Christian town folks from the attacks of the Moors and the Muslims. It has also served as a garrison for the Spanish soldiers. This was the shrine that is covered with roots of balete tree. Imagine, this was built and destroyed in the 17th century, 300 years ago. On the 25th of June 2012, the site was declared by the National Historical Commission as a National Historical Landmark, the first ever in Oriental Mindoro. As you can see, cement is not available in that time, so they used coral reefs to build this wall. San Isidro, Labrador Parish, and Convent Plaza, Siquijor, are reminiscent of the old Spanish settlement province. It is constructed by Augustinian Recollects. The Baroque church was established in 1857. From Larena Port, it takes about 50 minutes to arrive in Lazos Church. After becoming an independent parish in 1857, the current stone church was built in 1984 by Filipino artisan, followed by the bell tower the following year. The convent is one of the oldest and biggest in the country, was erected 1887. When the Spaniards, commanded by the Maestro de Campo Martin de Goiti, Lieutenant Antonio Carvajal, other picked Spanish troops, and Augustinian friars set foot to take Lubao on September 14, 1571. It was a flourishing kingdom with an established system, governance, and strong military defenses. Because it is the feast day of the triumph of the cross, the day is one of the most important religious events in the Roman Catholic liturgical calendar. It is known in Greek as raising of the precious cross, and in Latin as exaltatio sanctae crucis, or raising of the Holy Cross. It is the wonderful occasion when the Lord Jesus Christ triumphed over man's depravity, because it is the day when the gates of heaven fully open for man's salvation. It is a day to celebrate with music and praises. Maasin Cathedral was built in the 17th century. It's probably not only the biggest, but also the oldest church in Maasin City. It has been a diocesan seat since 1968. It shares its history with Don Anatoliao Gaviria Plaza, which is dedicated to a former mayor of Maasin. It still is one of the highly recommended stopping points for tourists as well as for locals. Here are some clips of the Maasin Church. Bradford Memorial Church. It was started as Cebu Mission Station in the city of Cebu by the Prebeister missionaries led by Paul Frederick Johnson to promote Protestantism in Cebu province in 1902. This church was built during 1912. On October 26, 1913, in the memories of Matilda R. L. Bradford of the Fifth Avenue Presbyterian Church, New York City, it has been a part of Bradford Memorial Church of the United Church of Christ in the Philippines since 1948.